SpaceX's Starship is about to have its first orbital test flight. Let's break down what it is, why it's important, and what obstacles are in its path. SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket is currently the workhorse of the rocket industry, but we need more than just the Falcon 9. That's where Starship comes in. It's more than just a rocket. It's an entirely reusable interplanetary transport system. Starship is both the name of the entire launch system and the transport vehicle. It sits on top of a super heavy lift rocket called Super Heavy. It's a two-stage system, which means that Starship will separate from Super Heavy after launch, when the system is near the edge of space. As Starship ascends into low Earth orbit, Super Heavy will return to Earth in a controlled landing, sort of like the Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy boosters now. The difference between the Falcon Heavy booster landing you're seeing here and Starship will be that there will be a tower with mechanical arms that attempts to grab Super Heavy as it's landing. Whenever Starship comes in for a landing, it will do so on its side, sort of like the space shuttles. After it makes it through the stresses and heat of Earth's atmosphere, it will flip to land upright. Super Heavy will be able to lift an astonishing amount of cargo to orbit, 100 tons to low Earth orbit, and after an orbital refueling, it will carry that same 100 tons onto the moon. In contrast, SLS, NASA's launch vehicle, can send about 46 tons of cargo to the moon in its Block 2 cargo configuration. Currently, SLS has only launched in its Block 1 configuration. Quite simply, when it launches, Starship will be the most powerful rocket in history. It'll also be the tallest. The Saturn V, which sent astronauts to the moon during the Apollo program, was 363 feet tall. The SLS Block 1, which successfully launched for the first time in November, is 322 feet tall. Starship, when it's fully stacked, stands 394 feet. SLS is also not reusable, which means that once Starship is operational, the cost savings will be significant. SLS will cost around $4 billion per launch to launch once a year, which is a pretty eye-watering figure. So why does this matter? There's a few reasons. SpaceX has already changed the game when it comes to low Earth orbit thanks to Falcon 9. They've driven down costs, emphasized reusability, and really made it possible for weekly rocket launches to be our reality. Now that they're looking to launch a super heavy lift rocket right as NASA is trying to return astronauts to the moon, anyone interested in human spaceflight should be paying attention to that. And NASA's noticed too, obviously. The Falcon 9 is currently the only operational human-rated launch vehicle in the United States. And Crew Dragon is currently the only way to launch astronauts from the US. Otherwise, we'd still be paying Russia around $90 million a seat to launch our astronauts on the Soyuz. Starship is supposed to be the vehicle for SpaceX to start Mars settlements, but it has a very important part to play in the Artemis program, which is NASA's plans to send humans to the moon, Mars, and beyond. For more on NASA's Artemis program, see my video linked below on Artemis 2. SpaceX's Human Landing System, or HLS, is what will transport astronauts from their Orion crew vehicle to and from the lunar surface, and be their habitat for the duration of the early Artemis missions, starting with Artemis 3. That mission is currently scheduled as the first moon landing, and while that's on the calendar for late 2025, I think 2026 or 2027 is more likely. Originally, astronauts were going to dock with a space station in orbit of the moon called Lunar Gateway, but that's not going to be ready for Artemis 3. So instead, astronauts will just transfer directly from Orion to HLS. The Gateway will be assembled starting with Artemis 4. HLS is just a variant of Starship, specifically designed to operate on and around the moon. It's not designed to return to Earth. Because it doesn't need to survive re-entry through the planet's atmosphere, it won't have a heat shield. And now let's talk about the challenges Starship faces. First, there's obviously the challenge that any new rocket has to go through. Unexpected issues, technical difficulties. Add to that the fact that you're testing an entire system and not just a rocket. That's a lot to accomplish, and they're on a deadline. HLS has already been delayed by a lawsuit from rival company Blue Origin, which wanted the lunar lander contract. The time delay increased the pressure that this company is under to get this thing in the air. So now when will the flight test happen? It could be as soon as April 10th, though that seems unlikely. The FAA still hasn't issued a launch license for Starship, though they have released an air traffic advisory with April 10th as the primary launch date. We're more likely looking at mid to late April, barring any further issues which could arise as a lawsuit by environmental activists. These activists are justifiably concerned that Starship could harm the local environment around the launch site in Boca Chica, Texas. Back in June of last year, the FAA published an environmental assessment of Starship and found that the program would not significantly impact the environment, but also asked for mitigations to protect local bird and turtle species as well as mitigating noise pollution. We'll see what happens, but all eyes in the space community right now are on Boca Chica, Texas.